Nashville, Noir, Chapter 20. Although I'd gone to bed feeling somewhat more confident that progress was being made, I awoke groggy and out of sorts. I slipped on the robe provided by the hotel and slippers I brought with me from Kaboot Cove and padded into the parlor. Cindy was still asleep, which suited me. I wanted some time alone to clear my head and to plan the day. At my request, a copy of the Tennessean was now left outside the door each morning and I retrieved it. Before starting to read, I called room service and ordered up a basket of breads and muffins, some fruit, juice, and coffee, figuring Cindy would also be hungry when she woke up. While waiting for our mail to be delivered, I settled in a chair by the window and scanned the front page. There was nothing there about the Marker murder, a blessing, and I went on to page two. Nothing there either. But when my eyes moved to page three, a photo stopped me cold. It showed me getting out of Lenny Granger's car. It showed me getting out of Lenny Granger's car outside the big sound studio, and the caption below the picture said, Mystery author Jessica Fletcher traded her typewriter for a stepson. The Nashville newbie is getting her country on while in town to defend a hometown young'un accused of murder. Next thing we know, she'll be eating roasted possum with sweet potatoes. The picture ran above a column by Brian Krupp, who wrote what amounted to a speculative piece about my movements in Nashville and what they might mean to the Marker murder case. Last night, this reporter decided to see what famed mystery writer Jessica Fletcher was up to in Music City. As readers of this paper know, Mrs. Fletcher has traveled to Nashville to help exonerate Cindy Gabriel, a young singer from Kaboot Cove, Maine, who came here seeking fame and fortune as a songwriter and performer. Not long after Miss Gabriel arrived, she was arrested and charged with the murder of Roderick Marker, a well-known music producer, publisher, and a partner in the firm of Marker and Whitson. General Section Court Judge Candace Grimes surprised everyone by releasing Miss Gabriel into Miss Fletcher's custody without posting bail, and she's been living with Miss Fletcher in the writer's suite at the Marriott Residences Hotel in downtown Nashville. Nice digs for an accused murderess. Miss Fletcher also has managed to get herself a place on Miss Gabriel's legal defense team, headed by court-appointed attorney Jamal Washburn. In other words, this famed writer of murder mysteries, who hails from Miss Gabriel's hometown in Maine, has found herself smack dab in the middle of a real murder mystery, and apparently not for the first time. Besides writing best-selling books, Jessica Fletcher has been known to involve herself in real crimes, sometimes to the annoyance of local law enforcement officials. So far, however, Nashville's finest don't seem to mind. A recent inquiry elicited no comment to see how a famous mystery author will go about trying to solve an actual murder case. This reporter took it upon himself to join Mrs. Fletcher on her jaunts last evening, although from a distance. Mrs. Fletcher's first outing was the Big Sound Studios. She was driven there by Lenny Granger, a local songwriter who also owns the boarding house where the accused had been staying prior to her arrest. Although I wasn't in the studio to see what transpired, who were there tell me that Mrs. Fletcher had a heated confrontation with up-and-coming songstress Sally Prentice, who was recording a song allegedly written by Miss Gabriel and given to Miss Prentice by none other than the late Roderick Marker. The thief of her song was what police say was Miss Gabriel's motivation for killing him. My sources also informed me that Mrs. Fletcher was particularly interested in the musician in charge of the band, Wally Brolin, a veteran Nashville guitarist, and that they made a date to meet later that evening. Sure enough, Mrs. Fletcher was picked up by Mr. Brolin back at her hotel and driven to Down Home, a venerable club frequented by local musicians. After a few beers, the couple took off in Mr. Brolin's pickup, perhaps to another watering hole. This reporter tried to get a comment from Mr. Brolin, but efforts to reach him was unsuccessful. Should he return my call, I'd like to know what role he has played in this intriguing murder case that has all of Nashville talking and speculating. Will Jessica Fletcher solve the crime, be absolved, absolve her ward of guilt, and have yet another best-selling story to write? More tomorrow. How dare you, I said aloud. There was a knock on my door. I opened it and my breakfast was wheeled in. I signed the receipt, poured coffee, and read Krupp's column again, my anger rising with each paragraph. The phone rang. I picked up quickly, not wanting to awaken Cindy. Hello? It's Wally. What are you trying to do to me? Oh, yes, Wally. What are you. I assume you read today's paper. That's why I'm calling. I don't know how I got into the middle of this mess that Cindy caused, but I want out. I don't believe that Cindy caused any mess, as you put it, and I'm sorry that your name appeared in the paper. And I'm sorry mine did too. I may add that I'm furious at the thought of being followed by the press. Now I'm getting all sorts of messages on my machine in addition to his. Have you called him? No, and I don't mean to. He must have been the guy following us last night. The guy I lost. I'm sure you're right. Yeah, well, I don't appreciate being drugged into this. Now, wait a minute, Wally. You became involved when you helped Cindy avoid the police. I'm sure you didn't think what you did was wrong. It was purely an act of friendship, isn't that so? But nobody made that decision for you. You have an answer for everything, don't you? Just like you have a question for everybody. And I intend to keep asking questions until Roderick Marker's real killer is identified and apprehended. The click on the other end loudly proclaimed that the conversation was over. Cindy came from her bedroom. Who was that? She asked sleepily, covering a wide yawn with the back of her hand. Your friend, Wally Brolin. Did he want to talk to me? No, Cindy, maybe this will explain. I handed her the newspaper. When she was finished reading Krupp's column, she looked at me with an expression that demanded an explanation. Is Wally in trouble? She asked. I don't know, I said. What I do know is that someone isn't telling the truth. Why would Wally lie, Mrs. Fletcher? He had nothing to do with any of this. I just showed up at his place after I left Marker and Whitson. He could hardly turn me away from the door. I knew I was in trouble and that I ran away. He let me stay. He let me stay. I'm the one who made the mistake. It would be terrible if he got in trouble just for helping a friend. You told him what had happened. If he thought the police were looking for you, he becomes culpable too, I said. It just dawned on me that he hasn't informed the proper authorities about that, nor have I made him aware of it. Please don't do it, Mrs. Fletcher, she cried. He was just helping me. Oh, I never should have gone there. Now the police will arrest him too. Cindy, I said, it's time for you to do a little growing up. You've been charged with murder. If you're convicted, you could be facing many years in prison. Trying to protect people who may know something that could contribute to this case isn't in your best interest, nor is it very smart. Someone murdered Roderick Marker, and unless I can get to the bottom of it and do it fast, your dreams of becoming a country music star won't end with you singing your songs. It will end with a cell door slamming shut behind you. I hadn't intended to sound quite so harsh, but Cindy was getting in the way of her own defense. It was time to acknowledge reality, that she couldn't protect anyone but herself, that she wasn't simply an innocent victim. that her actions after she had discovered Marker had contributed to her predicament, and if someone who helped her didn't want to be involved, now it was too bad. The truth had to come out, and I needed her to take a role in the investigation in any way she could. She was luckier than most accused killers. She wasn't confined to jail, but she has a responsibility to stop feeling sorry for herself and to help those who are working hard to get her out of trouble. Cindy stared at me for a few seconds before slumping back into the couch's deep cushions, fighting back tears. My temptation was to go to the couch and hug her, but I resisted the urge. I meant what I said. She was living in a clustered, unrealistic dream world, ensconced in a spacious, nicely appointed suite, with nothing to do but write and perform her songs, and hope all the bad things would miraculously disappear so she can get on with her career. But I knew that it wouldn't work that way. It never does. I better get showered and dressed, Cindy said. Good idea, I said. I picked up the ringing phone as she disappeared into her room. Jessica, it's Jamal. Guess what? Marilyn Marker had a parking ticket from in front of her husband's office building the day of his murder. What time was it issued? 5:30. Where are you? My office. I'm going to call Detective Biddle, make him aware of this and suggest we pay Mrs. Marker a visit. Are you free to come with us? I'll make myself free. Get back to me with time. I called to the Central Precinct, did not produce. My call to the Central Precinct did not produce the hope for result. It was Biddle's day off and he wouldn't be back until tomorrow. I left a message for him and called Jamal again. Biddle's not available, I said, but why don't you and I go to Marcus' house? If we learn anything new, we can always ring him in later. He agreed. I left a note for Cindy telling her I'd be out for a while, and a half hour later, Jamal and I were on our way to visit Marilyn Marker. Like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Bye.